Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All in All Alex. I'm your host, of course, Alex. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself, and she's going to give you a little bit of background about herself, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Sure. From another Alex.
That's
So
right.
I'm Alessandra, and it's great to be here. I'm an author and a relationship coach. I used to work in business. I still dabble with some business projects and stuff like this, but basically, I had a very strong awakening 5 years ago that led me to want to share an easier way of living life for those who are feeling lost and maybe disconnected from themselves. So that is my purpose.
Okay. All right. So let's dive into it. So what was it in particular that led you to become a relationship coach and author?
Well, I can see it from many perspectives. I had a very tough emotional upbringing and a very difficult relationship with my mother, who has a lot of mental illness. That's actually like a very good boot camp training for learning about relationships because you really have to learn how to find yourself through manipulation and these kinds of contexts. So from an upbringing perspective, I had like an encyclopedia of information just in my own household. I went on and I grew up and I chose to work in business. It seemed like the easiest path in terms of creating a life for myself. And that worked for about, 15 years until I had kind of a nervous breakdown during COVID by myself. And so writing the book actually was a consequence of me discovering meditation to self soothe during that time. And so I basically, within 3 days of meditating, felt this wave of light go through my whole body. And it lasted like a couple of seconds, but I mean, I felt it reverberate through the infinity of time. And from that moment on, something inside of me shifted, and so many different ways of seeing life shifted as well. And I'm a writer by nature. So I had this blank notebook and I started writing out how I could see the world now, which was helpful to me because it was no longer, um, I wasn't seeking validation externally. I could feel within me that, everything started from inside. And when you see life that way, it tends to feel more forgiving and you feel like you can manage things because you have yourself. And so that notebook was filled with words. And then those words became meditation that I shared with other people. And those meditations became the framework for the book that I released, which is about relationships. Because in my particular case, my disconnection came through in my relationships. So whether it's with myself, whether it's, you maybe have difficulty with coworkers or friendships or relationships or, romantic dating. So in my framework of how I processed this new awakening, it very much had to do with how can we create healthy relationships with healthy boundaries where we love ourselves and where we know how to give the right amount, how to be ourselves, how to recognize our own inner voice, how to know that when we're not overextending our kindness because we want to be liked, how to know that we're genuinely in a connection that is mutually serving both people and the betterment of the world. So that kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So I actually answered that too. So okay. So what inspired you to write A New Banana and Desperado?
Well, they both, so A New Banana is really like all geared around relationships. In fact, in a way, it could be a dating book. Um, because it prepares you for a particular type of personality profile. Like if you are a little bit of an anxious person and you're never quite happy in life, and you feel, and many, many other things that fall under that profile, it's important to fall in love with yourself, rebuild from there before you attract the partner that you're looking for in life. So A New Banana, that was just kind of like I guess like a download from my first meditation or from that experience that I told you about, which rolled out over time. I wrote it in about, I think it took about a year's time to write that all out. Desperado is a little bit more practical. So the thought behind that is actually to bring people into the present moment. So each chapter is a state of frustration that we might feel, like overwhelmed, tired, not in the mood. Just there's 12 different states of frustration. And each one of these states is discussed neutrally. Like, how do you neutralize that from your system while you're feeling it? And then each chapter comes with a meditation between 5 to 7 minutes, which can be downloaded. You can read it, but I mean, if you're meditating, you probably want to close your eyes. So I decided to record them so that people could download them with the book. And so they go along together.
Okay. Okay. Um. So so are the themes of those books basically based around the same thing, like as far as the relationship?
Yeah. So a new banana is really about relationships completely, whether it's with yourself or others or the universe or energy and that kind of thing. And Desperado concentrates on the slice of relationship that has to do with ourselves. And like when we are, when you're just so frustrated and stressed out that you're crawling out of your skin. And that this can happen to the best of us, even the most enlightened. Like there can be days where you're like, I don't care what the highest road is right now. Like I am frustrated. And you recognize that you need to do something about it. Like there's a way to get through it. And sometimes it's just, the solution is to just breathe through it or neutralize it. But the book is quite small. Like I designed it so that it can really fit into like a purse, like a tiny purse. And it just gives you what you would want your friend to tell you if you were having that kind of a moment, or what you would tell yourself as your own friend. So it's sort of like a training of how to self-soothe in acute moments of frustration. Whereas a new banana is like more like, if we were to look at the spectrum of ways in which having a good relationship with ourselves would impact our world, here is how it would be. And so then it's a little bit more broader and like I would say twice the size in terms of content.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So how do you feel like your career in marketing has influenced your work as a coach and author?
Well, it has certainly helped. I mean, but at the same time, I'm sure you would know as well, like nothing prepares you for working for yourself and when you have to do projects with yourself, right? Like, so it's like, I used to work in marketing, but there was an intern, there was a team, there were people that were doing, all their different roles and the analytics. And so it helped me, and it gave me, I had gratitude or retrospective gratitude, um, for the experiences I had working on a team. And yeah, it's very helpful to have the experience of having gone through branding or presentations and like how to present and launch, especially when you're advocating for yourself and you need to generate your own business. At this point, it's much different than when you're working for a company and like pretty much the clients have already been found through a sales team, and you're just delivering, following through.
So as far as the relationship coaching, what common challenges do individuals face in their relationships today?
Well, it changes with everybody, of course. Lately, I've been helping a couple of people that are not able to let go of someone from the past. So, and the thing is, like, all these things show up in all different costumes, but like underneath, it's the same person, I guess. Like underneath, it's just an invitation to do expanded inner work and remove blocks in order to see ourselves so that we can be our truer selves, so that we can actually just be so into that energy that we are even no longer attracted to what was bringing us grief. So the solution is always doing inner work, but you target it to whatever the situation is coming up, to whatever the outfit is of that day. So there's a little bit of that. There's, sometimes there are people who have had like tough divorces, and that can be very difficult financially as well, and like difficult to accept that some things like that have happened. And there's another level of work that goes into that level of relationship coaching. There are people who have problems with their families, and particularly with a parent who is like a formative person in the person's life. And it doesn't even have to be extreme. It can also be like, my mother never told me she loved me, and I feel like I'm lacking something in my life now. So it's all kinds of, or it can be someone who's like, I am bored in my relationship, but I don't know if I should leave or not because I have, good things also from this. And so it's really but it's all a journey within the inner self. And as long as you're not afraid of everything resorting itself and falling apart if it needs to, so that you can go towards your authenticity, like, come on in, you know?
Um, so how would you say? Well, actually, let's do this. Can you share a success story where your coaching made a significant impact on someone's life?
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna try and be sensitive about this one because it was recent. So there was a particular person who had some trouble. This might be triggering. Can we edit it out if we don't want to put it in?
Yeah.
This is not live. Okay. So there was a person who struggled to have boundaries within relationships with members of the opposite sex. And so this person would go into dating scenarios and always end up in a compromising situation with that person and regret it and feel terrible about themselves and therefore feel bad and have low self esteem because of it and continuously repeat the cycle. So, what I actually do is it's not really just talk therapy. This is actually energy work. So, we're working on the quantum field, we're working on fixing different dimensions that might be contributing to that situation and also coming up meeting our higher selves and bringing doing a lot of this kind of work. So it took a few sessions. Usually I work for 6 weeks, so 6 sessions with a person based on any particular issue. And we have been able to eliminate this entire thing. Of course, it tied to childhood, it tied to certain situations in childhood, it tied to certain situations in adolescence, and it tied to other situations in adulthood. So we had to confront each one of those moments. Basically, this person has told me that it's never happened again. I mean, it's really, and it was happening constantly. So self-esteem has come up. Mostly is awareness. You have to reach a point where you're so aware. It's like, we always are able to see what's going on, but sometimes we're not aware on time, right? And so all of that came together. So it was really, really rewarding for me to see, because then this person was able to live her life normally and stand up for themselves and go, into dating scenarios in a more healthy perspective.
That's good. That's good. So, speaking of awareness, what role does self awareness play in achieving life satisfaction?
It's the entire pie. I mean, if you want to be authentic, it's important to, I mean, you could also be in a sleep state and be happy with what you got. But I think self-awareness, it feels so much better when you did something in a conscious way, following your set of moral code, and you feel good about it.
Agree with that. Is there any, small, tips, whether it's just one or two, that you can provide to individuals to help them begin their journey towards self discovery and personal growth?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would start where you feel most triggered. If you notice, maybe, if someone is not even, let's start from step -1, I guess. If you feel that itch that you're not in the right place and you want to make something of yourself and you don't know even what it is, but it's not what you're doing, but you're stuck where you are. Notice, like, the moments where you might feel triggered about someone else that might be doing something. Like, why are you annoyed that someone else is off doing their own thing? Like, maybe you want to do exactly that. Like, look into that. Like, what is that about that thing that bothers you? Because maybe you actually want to do it. It's just strange. Not everybody wakes up and says, I'm meant to create a flower shop, or, something like that. So definitely that. And I would say not to go from 0 to 100, like, not to expect, just get started. So when I wrote my book, I was working 3 years after that. Like, I was still doing the job that was not necessarily bringing me satisfaction, because you want to mitigate as many risks as possible. Yes, in a perfect universe, we ask for something and we get it right away, but we're not in that kind of a dimension. Like, there's a little bit more of a time lag. So if there are obligations, or if one person, has to still worry about rent, or, maybe try to minimize all costs, but, like, not feel like, if you can't stop everything today, if you have, A lot of people say they haven't saved enough and they're not ready for that risk. Well, then start now as little as you can and then keep going. You can literally open a Google document and you can, in the morning on your way to waiting for your breakfast sandwich, like write a paragraph to yourself of like what your vision is or like how you want your business to be. If you're writing a book, you could start. I was writing my book at the post office, like, or anywhere that I had a free moment. So even if you just do 2 or 3% progress every day, it's still more than what you would have done had you not done anything.
Right. I always like to say, slow progress is better than no progress.
Exactly.
A little bit at a time. I mean, you gotta do something. You gotta start somewhere. If you're not at least doing it, you're never gonna get it done. So at least doing just a little bit here or there, that'll get you to where you want to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, as a meditation advocate, how do you incorporate meditation into your coaching?
So I developed my own for each person. I think it's really interesting when we reach that relaxation wavelength because it involves the subconscious as well, which is where most of our deepest memories and traumas are stored. So if we can access that area, so my meditations are not, it's a broad term to say meditation because there's meditation where it's like, sitting in a lotus position thinking about nothing and waiting for enlightenment. And that is beautiful. And that is in a certain type of way, very helpful as well. It's also helpful. People don't have patience for that. So when we're doing energy work, the meditation is energy work. So it's like a little bit of a hypnosis. And within the meditation are blessings and calling upon different guides and elements and crystals and powers that can strengthen in other realms what's happening in this one and bring alignment. And very often when we're talking about relationships, there are situations of entanglement and there are situations that need to also be solved on that level. And that can help lighten the energy. So most of the meditations that I create for my clients are custom, and then I record them and they can keep them for themselves. And they are designed to kind of like lighten the energy so that the more alignment can come through. And for people who haven't tried them and who haven't meditated, it can also be a little bit easier because they are like there's more guidance during the whole experience. So it's like more of a guided journey to wherever we go.
So, what benefits have you observed in clients who adopt regular meditation practices?
Connection with themselves and an ability to appreciate, like, when there is a problem, that it's not a panic moment. So the ability to actually like step aside and recognize that you have control and also you have no control. So, that duality, but also that's, it's true. Like, but being able to, like, a good day is better than, or a bad day is better than any good day from before, because when you are able to find your center and be in your own peace, then you're approaching everything with this state of gratitude for an experience, because deep down that every experience is a learning lesson. It takes some time. Again, like, obviously there's going to be some times where you're like, I know I'm supposed to be grateful for this, but this is horrible. Like, I'm not interested in having this lesson. But like, that's also the lesson. And laughing about it later. I mean, if you can't laugh about it now, that's cool. Like, we don't have to laugh all the time. It's not realistic. But to be able to really approach life as if every experience is an invitation for us to fine tune our learning. We're disciples here. This is a playground, and all we know is we don't know anything. So we might as well enjoy it.
That's right.
And nothing is that serious.
I agree with that for sure, for sure. Can you explain the concept of universal awareness and its significance in personal development?
Well, what is the quote by Rumi, which was, "You are the ocean in a drop"? So there's also a hermetic principle, which is known as above, so below, as within, so without. So like we are the microcosm of the macrocosm, and this is why sometimes I also facilitate psilocybin ceremonies as well, which sometimes people benefit from that tool. And when we're on a journey, like a cosmic journey, Where do you look inside? Or when you go into just a quantum meditation, you go in your heart. Like, you access the whole universe through your own heart. It's the same thing. It's crazy, but it's the same thing. So within us, I believe, is planted a key to unlock all of it. Like, we are part of this grander intelligence, every single person, and every single person is like very important in this whole equation, because we are each a perspective that fuels and generates the universal consciousness and the awareness, right? Like, we're all here. Like, your life and your experiences on some level influence my field and my ability to understand what's happening in the world, because you're putting out feelers from your life and mine as well. And so it is for every single person that is walking this universe. We're all contributing to it. So but how do we access it? Within ourselves. And what is it within us? The universe. Like, so that's how I would see it.
Okay. Okay. I like how the way you break it down. It gives people that never thought about things like that. It gives them a new way of looking at stuff. So now they can, really start opening their mind and really, just take it all in and really think. They can use that time to meditate and really think about it too. So,
Yeah, you can always meditate on it.
uh, let's see. So, what strategies, if any, if it's just one particular one, or without giving away too much, but what strategies do you suggest for building resilience and coping with adversity?
Okay. Is it adversity from the outside or from the inside?
Let's do from the inside, because most people that I've seen struggle with, like, let's say, self doubt. They're doubting themselves with anything, like, I don't know if I can do that or whatever, because a lot of times people are afraid of change, so they really doubt what they can do, what they can and can't do, basically.
Yeah. No, I mean, it happens to the best of us. It's normal. It's like, if you're not experiencing self-doubt, and if you're not going through a phase, could even be a long one, doesn't matter, then it's not normal. You should. If you have, I mean, it's part of the process, because it's also part of how ultimately, when you bring forward something, it's going to come from a good place, because if you've thought about it and you've reflected on it. But what you need to do is you have to overcome it at some point. And it is a mental game. It's all in the mind. And there are so many different ways that we can pick it apart. There are affirmations. And ultimately, what I found, honestly, is that there is no one way to attack it, to attack self-doubt or self-adversity. But what it is like, it's a series of methods that you begin to, a lifestyle that you begin to adopt. So that includes having discipline, showing to yourself in many different ways that you're showing up for yourself, even if it seems small. So, whatever that is within your life that it's not, and you justify it because you're like, well, it's not bad. I mean, people do this and it's totally fine, and successful people do this and it's fine. But in your head that what you're doing, it's not benefiting you. So those little things, being able to cut them out for a short, showing yourself that in fact you're building confidence when you do that, because you're showing yourself that you can look longer term versus short term satisfaction, is a big one for the self doubt. Because I would say, like, maybe we drink a little bit more than or maybe we don't drink a lot, but like, we drink for the wrong reasons. Like, kind of like, oh, someone's had a bad day, and so they'll have a drink. It's different than someone drinking to celebrate someone's graduation or wedding. It's a very different energy, and that's fine. But if someone over time is waking up the next day and thinking, knowing this about themselves, like, I did it again, like, da-da-da, that creates your own reality. If you can lift it from yourself and feel okay about it, feel good about that. Like, don't worry. What you've done before, you have to let it go. Many people get into this self-judgment tunnel as well, and that also doesn't help with the confidence. And then when the confidence is low, then we do more. Then we're like, okay, well, then maybe I'll have a joint, or maybe I'll do, and it's like, or other forms of self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is what I'm looking to say. And when we're in a state of self-doubt, we're quite vulnerable to other people's opinions. And unfortunately, that's the one thing we shouldn't be listening to. We should be fueling our own, and it can become the perfect cocktail of, delay, the cocktail of delay. I'm not saying it's never. Just all you need to do is realize it, because upon realizing something, you've neutralized it, you've ended it. But it needs to be a strong realization. And sometimes, at least I've found, is it's happened through proving to myself and myself only that I am able to govern my decisions, even if it seems silly, even if everybody else is doing something else. But to me, it means something to behave in a certain way in this context. So I will do it. And then eventually you're good in a way. You're always learning though.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And I like that. Myself, I'm big on the positive affirmations because you know I always say positive thoughts bring positive outcomes. You know what I mean? The more you're thinking positive and looking on the bright side of things, the more you have better and positive things happen for you and to you. So I'm really big on the affirmation thing. I actually even started, as part of this podcast, started my own merch line where it's just basically shirts with different positive affirmations on there. And the things that are on there are just things that I always say. So it's like I didn't just go and steal anybody else's. I just kind of things that I say in life, I kind of just kind of use those and put them on shirts. Um,
It's nice.
actually, 1 second. I actually uh have one on today under this hoodie. Now it's done got hot in here, so we're
Let's
gonna
see.
gonna display it now. Got some stuff on it, but so this one says, "Me time is necessary."
Oh, yeah, that's very key.
So it's just a little simple shirt. I mean, it's actually pretty good quality. It's so the what I use is like they make it and ship it for me. So people just order on there and they'll make it and ship it for me.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, I have different things like that. Just positive affirmations to me is just one of the biggest things, the most important things in anyone's life.
Yeah, there was a quote, and I don't know who said it, but I have it in my Instagram actually. But anyway, it's not me. But the quote said, "You have to be happy on your way to happy." And it was, that's kind of true.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Because I mean, how can you expect to be a part of someone else's life and make them happy? If you're not happy within yourself.
Yeah. How can you receive when you're in a state of mm, des- like desperation? That's why I wrote the book Desperado. Like, got to be a little bit more open to the blessings of life. It's okay to fall down a little bit sometimes. It's okay to lose hope. That's okay. But just remember that there's a light after the dark.
Hmm. That's right. So, how has living in various countries influenced your perspective on relationships and personal?
Well, it's definitely influenced my perspective on where I would live in the world, because I feel like I would live anywhere now. So I have no, like, I tell people, I'm like, I'm team earth. Like, I could live on anywhere in the earth. Like, because it's sort of, I don't mean this in a bad way, but it kind of breaks you a little bit when you move out of a continent that's your own, and then you move again and again. So you start realizing that you don't need material things, that you're not attached to them, which is very interesting how that happens. And then at that point, so for example, my partner is Australian, and he says one day he wants to move to Australia. And to me, that sounds just fine. Why not? I mean, okay, could be fine. It's okay. Because the whole world is here for us, given certain safety measures about the area. About relationships, it has taught me seeing how different people do different things in the world, whether it was religion or culture wise. It shows you that there's more than one way to do something. So it shows you to not judge. It shows you to have an open mind about how solutions can be approached. So that's always been like kind of interesting, because I think it makes you more accepting. It makes you willing to hear out other people, and what their side of things is. You kind of eventually you get to a point where you're like, at least I am. I want to know how other people do things, because it's like, this is so interesting. We have so many different ways now available of how to approach life. Um, and it's working for everyone. I mean, for the people it works, it works. So let's find out what works about it.
So, as far as the different, diverse cultures, How do you adapt your coaching methods to accommodate those diverse cultural backgrounds?
Well, exactly like I mean, it's like, so my book is called A New Banana, Unpeel Yourself, for a reason as well, because it's like deep beyond our stories, our cultures, our names, the foods we eat, everything that makes up our identity, basically. We're all awareness. We're all individuals with awareness. And we, again, you strip away the identity, strip away the personal, subjective stories, which can be gruesome and deep and hard and difficult. And when a person is in an acute state of suffering, the last thing they want to hear is that they chose that. But we need to get past that and realize, like, you are a big soul. You chose a big assignment. You're here on this earth, and this is what's happening to you. And I can help you or not. If I can't, I find someone for you. But it doesn't really matter, like, where this person is coming from, because if we've, it's like dolphins with frequencies, they call each other. Like, if we end up talking, there's a reason. And so how would I approach it? I mean, I would approach it just like anybody else, like same, as long as we speak the same language somehow, it would be, I think that's the only thing, there has to be trust. There has to be a mutual respect. There has to be like a resonance. And then everything else is, it flows.
So, as far as your books, as far as your writing your books, what challenges did you face while writing, and how did you overcome them?
Well, there we go. So self-doubt was huge. If we want to talk about that again. Oh my God, that was horrible. It was great, but so I got a coach though. I got a coach to coach me on coaching.
Okay.
I did because, or she found me, but it was very important because I think when you move from working for a company where you're always doing something, following someone else's orders, and you get really good at it, you don't get good at doing things for yourself. It's actually, and it's not about, it's simple. I have to write an email to this person. But if you're doing it for your job, someone else sees it, they're on copy, you're getting credit for it. If you're doing it for yourself, you're like, okay, yes, I have to write this email. But if I write this email, that means that I'm going to open up the possibility that I'm going to get an opportunity, and then I have to shine, or then I have to do it. And then it's like a big deal. So there's this overwhelm. You can also be afraid of your own shadow. Like sometimes it can be very hard to self-motivate when it's just you working for you. And, it doesn't have to be as dramatic as I said. It can also be like you just are more lazy with your time because nobody's looking after you anymore. Nobody's checking what you're doing in your hours of the day. So you end up watching YouTube. But once again, you watch too much YouTube, then you judge yourself, then you're self-doubting because now you know that you have this problem and now. So, but you step out of the frequency. Sometimes you need help. Sometimes that's also why we coach each other. Like we're here for each other in this planet. Like sometimes it's okay to say, I need a little bit of help in something to get me to that next level, to give me that like energetic step, like where I can stabilize there and like take that next step that I wouldn't be able to give to myself.
So, do you have any upcoming, books that you're writing, upcoming projects or goals, anything that you're working on or you're excited about?
Yeah, well, so I'm actually, it's still very early. So it's probably going to be in about 6 to 8 months, but I'm launching a podcast with a very dear friend of mine who's a psychologist. And it's going to be about, basically about relationships and our different perspectives on that. And so I'm really looking forward to this project. And as of other things I'm still doing, I would love to write a book soon, but I think with the two that I have now, those are still progressing. I'm moving from Italy to New York. I'm already in New York right now, but I'm doing a move in the next couple of months. So that's going to take a little bit of my time. And but I look forward to launching the podcast and like thinking of a new book over the summer.
Okay. That's good. That's good. So, before we wrap things up, I guess I would ask, what advice would you give someone? No, actually, no. We're at instant. So, how would you say individuals can cultivate self-love and acceptance into their daily lives?
They should be kind to themselves. I think sometimes we don't notice the dialogue that is going on in our own heads, and it can be very brutal. And so the very first step, because self-love means, okay, like It also means meditating, or it can also mean taking a walk or doing yoga instead of sitting on the couch. And that's advanced, but like that's a different kind of self love. But like the most important one that you want to start with is like, be kind to yourself. Like, you didn't do the dishes yesterday and your kitchen is a mess. Okay. How would you talk to yourself if you were your own child and you loved yourself? You would say, okay, now before we go outside and we play, time to clean the kitchen. Aren't you a little bit feisty today? Like, but I love you. Just clean this up. Like, just kindness instead of like, oh, I'm such a loser. Like, I never did. There's crust in my plates. And then it just gets worse and worse. And it just starts with kindness. We do it with others, ironically, even give too much. So it's important to stop ourselves from when we speak that way in such a way to ourselves.
I would agree. So, how can anyone that wants to use you as a coach? How can they go about reaching out to you, getting in touch with you, or using your service?
Well, I'm on Instagram, and it's Holy Shiver is my handle, holy_shiver. And that's the best way to reach me because there is link tree in my profile. And so basically from there is a way to go to my website, contact me. Uh, Also, people can message me on there. I read all my messages. So it's, I think that's the best way to find me.
Okay. All right. That works. That works. So I want to take this time to tell you that I appreciate you coming on the show today, talking over, different tips and things that people can do to improve their self-doubt, improve issues with their relationship, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. It's been a great conversation. I think you've had very good questions, very provocative questions in a good way. And I appreciate it.
Well, I try to get to the nitty-gritty,
To the juicy.
people
Yeah.
the stuff that people want to hear or need to hear at the same time. But thank you for all the work that you do, and like I said, once again, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Everybody that's watching, you guys go to the description, go support her with everything that she has going on. Go follow her on Instagram. All her information is down below. But once again, thank you all for watching another episode of All in All with Alex, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.